Hello, class. Welcome to summer sessions for IVCC students. I'm your teacher, Mr. Fogle. This is HPE 1008, PE activities, elementary school children, elementary, younger, overall. Now, I want to expand on that because we have so much time or so much to do and only so much time to get it in there. But I still want to go ahead and touch on as they get a little bit older and even how it can apply into our own lives then as well. So it is going to be important for us to not only know activities for physical education with youth, but physical education for everyone. This can help you in many different ways, so we'll see. We want to first go off the bat with learning about the physiology of children, how it differs a little bit compared to full-grown adults. All right? This is the most important thing we can start with. So I got notes here. This is from the American College of Sports Medicine. They are one of the gold standard guidelines organizations that puts together all this stuff. This information is clinically studied. It is peer-reviewed. It has been proven to be effective. These are great guidelines to go with. They go along a lot with the American Heart Association and other organizations as well. So great tools. So I'll be referring to their recommendations most of the time. But children, right? Children, growth and development is what's going on here from this age group. Younger kids, they go through a lot of changes from ages 5 through 7 through 10 through 12 through those teenage years then as well. So bones and muscles are changing, joint structures, they're changing. They're still forming, right? That's the big thing here. And then all of a sudden a growth spurt occurs. So we want to be very careful not to disrupt any of this natural processes, any of these from developing. We don't want to overly stress the body, we could say, in certain fashions. Now, control of the body is going to be different for a kid compared to an adult. I mean, just look at a pro athlete compared to a 5-year-old, 6-year-old. How they throw a ball, how coordinated they are at catching a ball or swinging a bat, little things like that. So the communication between the nervous system and the muscular systems, these two systems, it's still developing, and plain and simple, it takes a lot of time for that. And not only time, but usage too. The old homage is you use it or you lose it, I guess you could say. Well, use it to make new ones, I guess you could say, is the homage I like to go by. If you don't think it and you don't try it, you're never going to do it. But again, you try to catch a ball, you're going to learn how to catch a ball because your body adapts and learns. Your nervous system develops and helps your muscles do what it's supposed to do. So anybody can learn to do it, really, if they choose to. Neurons, they're beginning to branch more, so they're spreading out networks when they're young. We can still do this, but children, it does it exponentially. Again, growth hormone is huge with a child. They are growing rapidly. That's why they can eat so much. So much, kids. Oh my goodness. What else here? Things become more efficient then too. Just like when we adapt to exercise as adults, we exercise and we're using a weight and it's like shaky, and then after a couple weeks it's like real smooth then with the repetitions. Neurotransmitters become more efficient. They become more powerful electrical signals to the muscle to contract more forcefully or more smoothly. Efficiencies happen. This is big with that, but in children it's even bigger. They are brand new to all this stuff, so to speak. And also the myelin sheath, the covering of the axon length, that is still developing, and that actually is going to help keep the neurons firing a faster, more efficient impulse to the muscles, and then backward for feedback too. Child's response to exercise. This is huge now. Okay, these are the big topics that we're going to cover. 20 to 30% more oxygen is required per unit of body mass when they are running. Okay, so they need more oxygen. Way more than us. 25% more. That's a lot. Okay, so we shouldn't push them at such as high of an intensity for a long duration. If you remember maybe from old little things they used to do, achievement tests, you name it, the big thing was like around the areas you get ribbons for longest ball toss, fastest 40 or 50 yard dash. They weren't doing no 100s, no long distance. So shorter, powerful bursts are fine with kids, but you don't want to go all day long like that. Right? They're going to need more rest, more breaks, so because they can consume more and they heat up too fast. So again, the respiratory cycle is then much shorter. Their lungs aren't large as ours to pull in as much of that oxygen at the same time. So that's why they are requiring so much more, just more upkeep. Their minute volume is going to be much greater. And then lastly, not lastly, but fourthly, I should say, their VO2 max then initially, doesn't improve very much with training. What I mean to say is that if you push them and keep pushing them to get better at running, and they're 5 to 7 or 8, 9, 10 years old, they're not going to improve that much during this time frame because again, their body mass is still developing. You're better off almost waiting till they are developing into 12, 13, 14, and then start to push them a little bit more. And then you're thinking about their bones with the impact of the repetitive activity. We want to be careful overall because VO2 is maximum exercise output at a certain threshold. That's running full blast as hard as you can over time. We don't need to worry about those things. That's not realistic. Let's stay realistic here. Stroke volume. Stroke volume is how much blood the heart can pump per beat. It's lower at rest and also exertion for children. They can't pump as much blood forcefully as oxygenated then as well as us. And then their blood pressure is usually lower at rest and during activity too. So that's kind of a good thing for health purposes, but still, what we're trying to see here is that they just don't respond as quickly, as fastly as us, as well, and then adapt and be able to maintain compared to a full-grown adult, you could say. Now, regulation of body temperature is going to be key. They do produce a lot more heat, so that's why it's important to take more breaks if you are outdoors. Make sure they're staying plenty hydrated. That's going to be one of the big key things, making sure kids drink plenty of water, clean, good water, cool water. It doesn't have to be ice cold, but cool is very beneficial. They should be sweating and it should be evaporating from their skin. But it's a very humid day. I think we know better. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, children have more sweat glands. They have more sweat glands, but their sweat glands are less active. So what that means is that they may not be sweating initially, but over time, once their core temperature reaches a certain level, then all of a sudden they'll just look like they're little sweaty dogs. That's always a cause of concern. So don't push them so hard, right? Have them back off, give them an ice pop or something like that, right? Cool them down, and get back to it 15, 30 minutes later. Children are very much more vulnerable to dehydration because they like the sugary stuff instead of the water. So make sure you're trying to get them water first and foremost. That's going to be the key. But then you go to your sports drinks later on. Of course, you're going to be seeing more things like sugar and stuff. There's a big thing of homeostasis of body temperature for a child, but we don't need to really get into that, so to speak, with the depth of knowledge that we need. We need to know more along the lines of what to look for and how to combat the current epidemics going on right at home, you could say. And what we're seeing more and more is an increased rate of obesity or overweight children. Now with this excessive body weight, over time especially, it can develop life-threatening conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, which can lead to future heart attacks or strokes, elevated cholesterol levels then too, other types of heart diseases, or pulmonary diseases perhaps, and then joint disorders. Now, an easy way to determine if somebody is overweight or not in the first place is to use a BMI calculator, but this is not an end-all, be-all predictor. It's good to actually take some physical measurements, see the person, understand how much muscle mass they might have too, or body fat percentage. These are probably a little bit more gold standard to look at as a whole. But right off the bat, we can do this honest predictor based off the person's height and weight ratio, the average human. And these are, again, American College of Sports Medicine numbers here. And now BMI, okay, equals kilograms divided by meters squared. Okay, BMI, kilograms divided by meters squared. So simply enough, what we're going to do is take the person, their kilograms, you have to convert it from pounds. So in order to convert pounds, we have 2.2 pounds equals 1 kilogram. And for meters, now we have to figure out how many inches is somebody. So, for every inch, you have 2.54 centimeters equals 1 inch. Okay. Now we can just plug these numbers in. So I'm going to use myself right now, what my basics are. Kilograms, I don't know what my kilogram numbers are. So to figure that out, we can take pounds. Okay, I am 188 pounds. So 188, and we divide that by 2.2 equals our number of kilograms. Our next thing to do would be to take our meters and convert that as well to inches. So we use that first for this. I am 6 feet tall, which if we figure that out in inches, it's 72 inches. 72 inches. That means we have to take 72 inches times it by 2.54 to get centimeters. But then we also have to remember, this is centimeters, and we're going to need meters for our equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that then by 100. And then that's going to equal our meters. But our meters need to be squared. So what we need to finish to find BMI we're going to take our kilograms and divide it by our meters times itself first. So kilograms divided by, you can do it on your calculator, parentheses, whatever number that is times whatever number that same number is. You should get your answer. That's your first homework assignment. Give me the answer to this. Okay? Send it to me by email, lowercase FOG0845@yahoo.com. Plug in my numbers, and then plug in your numbers too. I want to know your height in inches. I want to know how that you can convert that into kilograms and plug it into the equation. I want to know your weight. I want you to know how to plug it in and see if you can get the answer. The next thing to do, once you have that, you can categorize. Now, children are kind of close to adults with their body mass, because we're thinking, okay, height to weight ratio. How tall are you compared to how heavy you are? We can generalize most of these. Now, again, like I said, some of these are going to be a little bit different, but we're going to try to keep them linear. If we have somebody who is roughly 18, a number of 18.5, let's say, or lower, they are underweight. Okay. If their number is that 18.5 to 24.9, they're ding 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 normal. If their weight is, or their BMI I should say, is 25 to 30, well, now guess what? Overweight. And now if you are 30 plus, obese. BMI, body mass index, underweight, normal, over, obese. Where are you? I want you to go ahead and rate that. Normal, over, obese. Where are you going to find me? I want you to know that too. Pick where I am and circle that. So again, that's your homework. BMI for my number that I wrote down on the board. BMI for yourself as well. Submit that by email. Okay, a couple of more things to go through. Fat cell growth. Okay, Fat cell growth does happen with children, especially as they're going through adolescence. Girls, of course, are usually about the same body fat percentage as boys are until they get through those puberty years. So we're seeing girls sometimes double their body fat percentage, sometimes even more. Again, female characteristics are kicking in. Males, the opposite, more testosterone. So sometimes boys even get leaner than what they were. It also depends on the person. Diet, exercise, so on and so forth. The main thing though that we're seeing is that fat cells, once we're adults, there's no such thing as hyperplasia, which would be the number of cells increasing. There really technically isn't necessarily means to say that there's hyperplasia going on for fat cells in general. You're kind of born, you could say, with a certain percentage of fat cells on your body. And those cells mainly are what's happening is causing hypertrophy to them, meaning that they're gaining energy or they're holding more energy, meaning that they're getting bigger. So there's not that there's more numerous fat cells. Oh no, I got more fat. No, your fat is just bigger fat, bigger chunks or bigger pieces of fat, you could say. So it's like you're taking balloons and you're blowing them up more and more over time. That's how fat is on the human body. Genetic factors are going to come into play with a lot of factors with the genetic factors with metabolic ranges, how fast they burn calories, how much energy they have to participate in activities, their percentage of fat to fat-free mass already from the get-go, their muscular strength, the types of muscle fibers they have, their basic structure of their body, right? Some people are built to lift weights, some people are made to run. So a lot of factors come into play to knowing which activity is best or is most suitable, or you could say what's going to create good health responses in the long run to combat obesity or disease. Environmental factors are super huge, right? So sedentary lifestyles lead to lower metabolic rates. So if it's a kid that goes home and they sit around and play video games too much or don't do enough outdoor activities to keep their body fat off, that is going to lead to possible further complications. But again, integrating this into their life from the get-go can be more helpful. Other things then too, excess energy consumption promotes weight gain then too. So not only is it somebody being sedentary, somebody's eating foods that are probably very calorie dense. So with more calorie influx compared to a burn, you're going to gain weight no matter what. Whether that's muscle or fat, that is up to your activity level. Precautions during exercise now. Children and adolescents have difficulty dissipating their heat, right? So their body temperatures get hotter. They don't have as much surface area to their body, so it's harder for them to expel that heat as much. So you want to avoid exercising extreme heat and even more extreme humidity. So if the heat index is 90 or plus, refrain from activity overall. Stay indoors in a good air circulated environment, hopefully cooler, plenty of water to sip on, hopefully cold or cooler water. Again, breaks are going to be very important, sometimes even up to every 15 minutes. Other things then too. Youth have an increased risk of musculoskeletal injuries. Like I said, they're growing rapidly, especially their bones. So their epiphyseal growth plates at the ends of long bones, where they're kind of constantly spreading apart and growing, if those are damaged, that can sometimes be irreversible damage, and that bone will no longer grow the way it should be. So it's very important that we don't do any super high impact activity, encourage no tackling of each other or knocking into people forcefully. So external forces, we want to try to stay away from those as much as possible. We want to introduce jump training or those type of plyometrics probably around age 13, 12, once their bones are more or less not fully formed but stronger. Intervertebral disc ruptures are kind of common too if you put too much stress on a younger child. So we want to be careful for their spine development. That can come into play with how their mechanics then happen with exercise, especially for their lower body. And then joint injuries can occur much more rapidly with weaker muscles. Things become a little lax, and there could be a tear, a shoulder dislocation, something much more easily than with a full-grown adult. More things to touch on with heat-related and cold-related illnesses. Let's get into cold first, and hypothermia can always be a problem. Like we were saying with hot, cool environments, we still want to make sure that they're drinking tons of water, because water is going to hold the heat that they already have if it's lukewarm or or cool, just regular cool water. So hydration previous to activity is more key. During activity, if you can get some warm fluids, that's awesome. But best thing is stay indoors overall and refrain from any of that activity altogether. Other things to jump on: some children or athletes, you could say younger kids, there could be a cardiac emergency. So something to look out for. It's kind of rare. It's like 1 in 8 million, something like that. Don't quote me exactly. But 1 in that many kids will just drop down out of nowhere, unconscious. And it could be a heart failure or a heart disorder that was not even known about. Very, very rare, but still usually coming along with a very vigorous activity like a football or basketball type of sport. And it could have been genetic. Just know that it's important to call 911 immediately if you see something like that happen. If we're a trained responder, start performing CPR if necessary, right? Once we check for signs of life. Other barriers of exercises that we're going to see, okay? Whether it's activities, games, instruction, you name it. We're only going to have a certain amount of time with these people, right? Kids. If we are a school teacher, we can get up to, what is that? Maybe 40 minutes a class period, 20 minutes, depends on the class, and the length that they recommend right now. If you're doing it for a hospital or some kind of kids camp, you name it, you got a lot more time with these kids, so it can be very well structured. Or sometimes it could be hard to get them, focused on the different activities that you want. Sometimes it could be difficult. Anyway, the main thing is that you have a good game plan of the variety of activities, because some activities, they're just not gonna, it's not going to work. The vibe's going to be off. It's not going to fit. Game plan A not working. Let's go game plan B, game plan C. Sometimes keep it simple, stupid is what I like to say. When in doubt, you don't know what to do with these kids at the heat of the moment, and you don't have it structured out yet for a kids camp. Tag, monkey tag, chase. They love playing games of chase. Line tag is one of their favorites. They can play that for hours and be happy. It's silly. Some kids are going to dislike physical exertion, plain and simple. They're going to want to sit there, but hopefully the goal is to take the activities and keep them active, right? If we take active out of activities with I sit, that's not going to help combat obesity or so on and so forth. So it's PE time. Let's move. The American College of Sports Medicine does recommend that every single person gets 30 minutes a day of exercise at least a moderate intensity. That's 150 minutes per week. So let's help these kids get that too right from the get-go. And still into their lives a little bit. Peer pressure, right? That's sometimes big. Sometimes one girl says, I don't want to play dodgeball, so I'm not going to play dodgeball too, or whatever kind of other ball game you play. Try to make it accommodating to everybody and change the games up so everybody has an advantage maybe sooner or later with the games. Inaccessibility, or maybe you're dealing with somebody with more special needs, right? Sometimes it can be hard to get them on topic, so you might need to let them just float like a butterfly, do what they're doing. Some kids are handicapped, so we need to learn how to involve them. We'll get into that a little bit later too with other disorders. Or you might not have the equipment, right? You might not be able to do certain things because you don't have the equipment. You got to be creative and make things up as you go. We'll get over a lot of those games. Other benefits of exercise, though, like we said, main thing is that we're improving bone density, we're improving cardiorespiratory performance, we're improving the brain, how it functions, we're decreasing chronic illness, we're increasing muscular strength and endurance, and we are decreasing the rate of obesity. Okay. We always want to make sure a kid's okay to go, so we want to make sure their health is okay. Always usually get forms a lot of times, and we know about health concerns, but there's every once in a while where we don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Expected things that we're going to remember, okay? Know these and write these down. We're going to expect to see lower absolute oxygen intake, a lower cardiac output, which also means we're going to have lower stroke volume. We're going to have lower blood pressure. We're going to have lower tidal volume and lower minute ventilation. But we're going to see a higher heart rate. We're going to see, over time, a much higher respiratory rate, especially breathing rate. And we're also going to see a relatively higher oxygen uptake for a child. And then sweating later on. Not initially, but later on. I think that's a good place to stop. Next time we'll jump into nutrition, okay? Talk to you soon. Again, assignment, BMIs.